The Grob opening is known for being one of the worst openings for white, but I'm curious if I could make it work for myself. I've never played the Grob opening. I don't know anything about it, and there are rules to this competition. First rule, I can't look at the engine until I get a win. Second rule, I've got to show every single one of my losses. But first, before we get into my adventures, the fun way to play it. So the Grob opens with G4, which is one of the worst ideas for white. It weakens your own king and creates all sorts of complications for you in the future without contending the center, without developing your pieces. It's a little bit weird. And so black's natural response is going to be D4, attacking this pawn. Now, you may want to, as you're about to see me do, defend this pawn, but all of the Grob experts, they say, hey, you don't need to do that. Bring your bishop out. You're playing the Grob. You're trying to throw away this pawn. And so your opponent may take it. We'll go over one other line right after this, in which case you want to strike immediately at the center. If your opponent takes this pawn, then you're going to be grabbing this, grabbing the rook. That's great. Now, your opponent here is not going to fall for that. He's likely going to defend that pawn, in which case you're going to bring out your queen. You're reinforcing this central attack, and you're looking and eyeing this b7 pawn. The one thing to keep in mind here, your opponent may decide to defend this pawn. You might think, okay, I'm going to capture, go up here, and my opponent moves over, and great, I'm going to grab another pawn. There's a key move here, and black is totally winning, and it involves a back rank checkmate. You might think, well, the king's in the middle of the board. How do I get a back rank mate? Well, the rook moves over. This bishop is undefended. That's a key idea to look out for when you're playing white. So don't get greedy trying to grab this second pawn over here. But otherwise, get your bishop out, get your queen out, and have a lot of fun. The one other line I wanted to keep in mind, if your opponent doesn't decide to take this bishop, he may decide to move his knight out now or in the near future, in which case you're going to move your pawn forward. If your opponent tries to attack it, you're going to attack his knight and defend this pawn at the same time, and you're going to have a great game. Now, even if one of these two lines doesn't take place, keep in mind you don't need your g4 pawn. You are playing the Grob. Find the best way to sacrifice it to give your opponent weaknesses and you an advantage. First game, we are playing g4. That's the Grob. That is all the opening theory that I know. My opponent counters with the d-pawn. Now my pawn is hanging. Let's go ahead and defend it. I used to play the orangutan / Polish opening. I guess I'm just going to kind of play it in reverse. The only difference here, instead of having a nice kingside castle, committed these pawns over here. And so it's going to be a little bit different. My opponent, he grabs the full center. I suppose this bishop's always going to belong over here. And then my opponent, locks that down here in the center. Immediately, obviously, I want to play right there. I mean, why not? But let's first play d3. I want to get my bishop potentially into the game. And let's go ahead and do this. I'm already not liking this because my opponent is most likely going to check me right here. If I try to defend this way, I'm just losing a pawn. Oh, gosh. Okay. But anyway, let's see what goes on. Let's my king over here. And let's just hope for the best, right? There's nothing wrong. Hope is a strategy. At least it is in this case. Okay, so let's get all of our pieces developed here. Grab some central control. Maybe artificially castle in some way. Let's go for it. I think that his queen is worse right here than it is right here because now I'm threatening some checks. I don't know. The one thing I do have in my favor here is with all these weak dark squares, at least my opponent doesn't have a dark squared bishop. So I think it's going to be somewhat difficult for him to attack maybe. And as I'm saying that, I'm like, well, you know what? Let's just start pushing these pawns and seeing what happens. I mean, in my opponent's position, I think that's absolutely what I do. You could castle, you could go here, castle queenside, or I mean, my king is so much weaker. Just don't even worry about it. Yeah, I probably wouldn't have castled kingside there. I think that gets me just like a very slight amount of hope. I could bring my knight over here with tempo and start, bringing myself into the center of the game. I think I'm digging myself a little bit out of the hole I brought myself into when I started this adventure. Let's see. Go grab my pawn. Let me back into this game. I will totally accept those terms if you offer them to me. Sure if I have the safer king at this point. I don't think so. This still seems pretty dangerous. His queen could get back in the game. I think grabbing this pawn was a bit greedy. It looks like this. I am just worried about this pawn push here, though. I guess I could always. There's no checks after I move my king to h1. So I guess I have the safer king, just because all of my pieces are over at his king and his queen is just out of the game. So he does go here. This is got to be the move. My opponent has a bit of a decision to make. Force a response of sorts. This move threatens some back rank issues if this knight moves. So I don't know where the heck that knight would even move to, so I guess it's probably not a real threat. Right now, his rook's just out of the game 100%. His knight cannot move. Here? My opponent might have a draw idea here. Screw it. Let's go for it. Because I did get my first win, I am able to go and at least consult the engine on what was happening. So we go to the bottom. This one's always fun. So played a little bit better than my opponent, but I definitely beat him in the end game and definitely not in the opening. And the best response, d5, okay. I play h3. They're saying it's okay.
If you see yourself playing pawn to h3 in the Grob attack, you're doing it wrong. Play something else.
Again, I'm still in book. It was saying knight c3, getting some of my pieces out more. It wants d4, so I am exposing my king a little bit, so maybe I need to be a little bit more aggressive here. Rule number 3, after I get my second win, I'm finally able to look at some opening theory and play with a bit more competence. And last rule, I can't stop playing the Grob until I get my third win. Our opponent is not afraid. This is mentioned as an idea. I don't get it. I'm still going to play this, but I'm not going to push my f2 pawn. I am going to be looking to play d4 pretty close to right away, but let's get the bishop out first. This opens up some check, which maybe helps. Sometimes. I don't know. My opponent does not want me to play d4. He's trying to prevent it. He can't do so, though. I've got enough pawns. I'm going to force it, I think. But if I play here, he plays here. This makes that push hard to make. No, it doesn't. Yeah, let's go for it. I think this breaks me out of the center here. I think my knight actually could end up here on g3, doing all sorts of, fun stuff there. That could be kind of fun. If you could jump there, that's cool too. Okay, so the opponent pushes here. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4 defenders. I've got 1, 2 attackers. So, okay, cool. Probably could have seen that coming. He is offering this to double up his pawn. He would have the bishop pair at that point. So don't necessarily like that. Let's go for it. He doubles his pawns. I think either captures I recapture to the center I'm happy with. And now I am, for his 3 defenders, I have 3 attackers. So I did not anticipate that as a real move. This somewhat forces my response, I think. But what's the idea? Is he going to plant a bishop right there? That looks pretty strong. Can't be too afraid, though. Let's go ahead and grab that pawn first. I'm threatening this pawn now. Opens up the c-file. Yeah, let's go ahead for that. So I have a bunch of weak light squares. Let me pressure this pawn. If I can get rid of this pawn, I think I'm good. Here, here, here to defend the rook. This is threatened, but I think everything holds. So let's go for that. I'm up 2 pawns. I like the idea of figuring out a way to start pushing into the game here. Yeah, let me go here, here, here. Is what I want. So both my pawns will be defended. So he's going to, I guess, check my king. I move over. Oh, geez. I don't move over. That's basically checkmate. Ooh, that's a frisky move. That is a frisky move. This move at least gives me an escape square. Let's go for that. This is getting a little bit scary. I don't know what's going on here. Or it frees up my knight from being tied down, and it frees up my queen from being tied down. He probably castles, lines up his rook here. Then he'd be threatening this capture. I think that I can block with my knight this way. A little bit squirrely for sure. Getting a little bit squirrely. Oh gosh. Okay, cool. This guy's just going for it. I love it. Let's see what you got, sir. Each of these times I'm retreating to defend this rook, or I'm moving forward to defend this rook, and his queen's in the middle here being like, what am I doing wrong? And now I'm up a whole piece, like an entire piece, which is very exciting. There's no reason to leave my rook over in the corner by himself. If I could get my king out of the way, I could finally push this pawn as well, which would be exciting. I think I'm okay with this. And even if I give up this pawn, I don't need to keep all my pawns. I'm up enough material that as long as I'm not randomly checkmated, I should be okay. I'm going to stay on the dark squares with my king because he has this light squared bishop. I'd like to get... Oh, geez. This guy really is just going for it. Because I assume he's... After here, he's just pushing this. Let's see what he's got. Let's just see what he's got. Oh my gosh. He really is just going all in, but I don't think he has enough pieces. He's only got 3 pieces left. Let's go back and run away because I need to I can't defend this though. Jeez. Actually, that move was terrible. Maybe my opponent does have enough here. This move is triple attacking here. I can't defend it. This move was terrible. Ouch. Let me run backwards, I guess. I don't know what I'm doing. Oh, geez. That's not good. That is not good. I think I had this. Obviously, I was up by so much material and I just let my opponent just do whatever he wants. Now I can't get onto any light squares. Let's see what he's got. This check is met by this, which is a salvation. Well, let's consolidate. That was scary, but I think I've got. Oh no, I'm trying to consolidate. Um. Oh, what a great game by my opponent. I'm just hoping because he's got this now. Oh, now he's got that. Nice. Oh, Jesus. Oh, ouch. Okay. I'm gonna keep playing the Grob, I guess. That was awful. Okay, let's see what we got here at the beginning. Because we're trying to learn the Grob. We are inaccurate already. It just wants me to bring my pieces into the game. I don't understand why I'm so confused with that. And it still wants me to just play d4 right here. So the idea being, okay, and then if recaptures, you're going for quick development. I need to just play d4. I need to stop worrying about trying to like hold on to pawns and stuff. I'm at +5 right now, which is, classic for me. And yeah, this is really my main mistake. Yeah, that simplification would have been much better. Bishop to f4 right now. And then it's going to tuck to g3 and consolidate. I'm still up so much material. I just needed to find that defensive resource. And then that would, of course, defend against the bishop getting over here. That would have been very, very cool. But anyway, we're going to continue on the Grob adventure. We're 1-1 so far. Let's see if we could find an undeserved win. My opponent here, I actually just played him in the last game. I had the black pieces, so unfortunately I was not able to play the Grob. He gets an opportunity to strike back. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. I know I don't want to play here. I know d4 is always an idea, it seems like, in all these. So since I have the opportunity now to finally strike back and take some of the center, I'm going to do it. This. I kind of like that idea. Let's go for that. I think that part of my issue has been I haven't been playing quite aggressively enough. If I'm going to play kind of let's call it a little bit more of a silly line, I have to get aggressive. And so now my opponent, he is taking all these light squares. His light squared bishop is, kind of stuck back there. I'm looking at pushing here. Let's just develop the bishop, see what my opponent does. I do still have a bit more space. I want to see if he commits to anything here. Okay, we're just bringing our pieces in. This is maybe one of the least confrontational grobs that we're going to get. Now my opponent is forcing some kind of response out of us. My opponent can't step forward this way. He could step forward into this square, but it looks like his knight would be pretty much trapped. Not quite. I kind of like having all this extra space. It gives his knight something to think about. And I mean, his bishop, obviously he's going to be playing this here pretty soon. But with all this extra space and him still not fully developed, kind of strike now while the iron is a little bit hot. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It seems kind of fun. I don't want to capture. If I capture, recapture, it forces this knight to move. So I don't think I want to do that. I think I want to first reinforce this pawn, and then, I could decide if I want to capture here, damage this pawn structure. Nice. Okay, cool. So my opponent's striking back here. My knight is pinned. This forces a response. I'm threatening something, right? So, okay, cool. So now the question is, does my knight belong over here where it could jump in, jump forward, or does it need to get rerouted over to the queen side? Well, I think I'm going for a king side attack, so I definitely want to move my queen up and over. I'm also keeping an eye on this b2 pawn, and if it becomes attacked. So I think this recapture is clearly the better recapture. So now my opponent needs to figure out, okay, what is he going to do with his king? Okay, cool. So he's going to start breaking down over here on the queen side. He's going to try to get a little bit, some sort of an attack going on, I guess. Now, part of me wants to castle king side. Part of me thinks that's still like a little bit too early. But let's go grab this first. I suppose this is coming in. I'm kind of letting feel like I'm letting this get away from me a little bit. Because if I push here to prevent the knight push, then this pin becomes even worse. Let me first get out of the way here. So all of my opponent's pieces are over on the queen side right now. With his knight moving over, I do have this square open up for my knight. Improve that piece right now. That'd be putting some immediate pressure on this pawn. So hopefully he has to respond to me. I guess I don't really mind this, and then this recapture gets my queen over to where it needs to be. If I go here, I'm maybe threatening this in the future and preventing this bishop move. So I do like that move on the surface. I'm running way down on time. Yeah, my opponent's knight is not able to defend this weak square in the corner. His bishops are on the other side of the board. I'm getting the feeling that I do almost have a strong enough attack here to kind of go for it, which is, what I'm lining up to do. My king feels safe here. I mean, he's got this pawn kind of pinned down, but so be it. I'm not sure what this move does, unless he's just trying to get back to defend, to force his bishop backwards, but that would just force it back here and force me to respond, and, I don't particularly like that. So let's continue with the idea. How do we do this? Yeah, so here, this move. Now, this move comes with either capture is a check for me, so my opponent has to do something there. So if he plays here, I'll get a check in first. I just don't have enough pieces involved with this attack. This bishop's undefended. This bishop's undefended. This bishop's undefended. Okay, cool. I'm just like randomly noting that. And that opens up this, like, I don't know, probably obvious move. I'm sure everyone else here saw something similar. But okay, cool. So now this brings my knight is getting over to these attacking squares a little bit more. If he captures here, then I have this check to pick up the bishop. So his other bishop is undefended. Okay, cool. So I don't know why my opponent here is not defending his pieces. It's giving me all sorts of options. And so hopefully, I could continue to capitalize here. Wow. Okay, cool. So I think I've got a sweet tactic here. So this capture, if he doesn't recapture with the queen, then I get his queen. And then if he does recapture with the queen, this is a pin. So yeah, I think I should be able to take this one home. I've only got a minute 28 left. Which looks quite difficult to defend. Nice. That's a good defense for that. Let me go ahead and simplify into this winning endgame. I've only got 30 seconds left. I don't really have that much time to think. So I'm going to make this a passed pawn. His king's going to kind of have to come over there to defend it. And then I'm going to go gobble up this pawn, promote my F pawn. And that seems like the simplest way to go about it. This is maybe not the most quickest way to do it, but I know I'll be able to do it, so great. Here, and I'll checkmate right there. Okay, cool. That should take us to the end there. I'm getting slow rolled here, but that's okay. It's just seems to be a bad opening, but I'm very, very curious to see what the fans of this opening have to say about it, because I mean it is quite comical. For its source here to figure out what the heck is going on. I'm not gonna obviously make you guys suffer through this to figure out what is the best thing, but I want to see what my fellow YouTubers have to say about this. Funnily enough, when you look for Grob, it doesn't even show up as chess. So Grob, chess opening. Let's see what my fellow YouTubers have to say about this. Okay, I'm listed here. I'm getting to the end of what the chess website has to say about this. I'll put a link in the description, but this line right here is just exemplifies what I've been doing this whole time. So it's pretty funny.
And I've heard some people talk about the fact that if they don't take your pawn here on g4, but you have the threat still of this bishop on c8, you should go ahead and defend with pawn to h3. If you see yourself playing pawn to h3 in the Grob attack, you're doing it wrong. Play something else. You should probably play something else in general, but if you play the Grob attack, play something more fun. There are way better options that give you more fun.
I'd be remiss not to check out the how to refute this opening line.
Tired of investing so much into your YouTube channel?
Oh my god, it's an ad. Holy shit.
Go.
Okay, I'm going through Eric Kissling's refutation of the Grob right now, and the one cool thing that he says is that one tempi, so a move by your piece, and if you're moving it twice or whatever, each tempi that your opponent has over you is worth a quarter of a pawn. So if you have 3 pieces developed and your opponent only has 1 piece developed, you're up 2 development pieces, 2 tempis, and that's worth a quarter of a pawn each, so that would be worth half of a pawn. I'd never heard that before. I'm really curious to start kind of experimenting with that and seeing, if I find that to be true as well. But anyway, this is my favorite clip from Eric's video, so let's take a quick listen to it. Pretty funny for
evaluation. Sure. I mean, pretty high depth. It was like depth 35. So this was pretty convincing for black, almost winning for black pretty much already on move 7, which doesn't happen in any of the main openings. So this gives you an idea of how bad the Grob is against correct defense.
And here we go. We're 2-1. We've actually looked at the book now. We know what's going on. We don't care about that g4 pawn. It's, oh, my opponent plays something completely different. Okay. I think a lot of times when people play against the Grob, they're like, I don't know what's going on. I'm just going to do my own thing. And so that's what we see right here. I think that what I want, though, is pretty much the same thing. So if I go here, now I have 2 things threatening the central pawn. There's only 1 defender, and so my opponent has to respond. If he captures right here, that would be pretty funny. I could potentially capture here and then, triple up these pawns. And I was planning to give up this g4 pawn anyway. A lot of the, opening theory on this is, figure out the most creative way to get rid of that pawn. And so if your opponent moves forward there, then okay, great. So now I could attack this knight while defending this pawn. My opponent at this point is like, what the heck is even going on? And so now I'll be winning this central pawn. So I'm going to start the game by going up a pawn, playing the Grob. So this is pretty exciting. I don't know whether or not this is going to equate to me actually having an advantage due to my weak king, but my opponent's played this in a little bit of a weird way, and so I'm feeling pretty good about it. Okay, so my opponent captures this pawn. He wants to give up a little bit of material. I don't think I have any choice other than to recapture, otherwise I'd be giving up my queen. I think that this captures to get some tripled pawns there is going to be the move, and then I can get my pieces developed and kind of try to consolidate this. I really think that's the only thing that makes a lot of sense. And now I'd be threatening to recapture this pawn, bring my rook into the game. This knight here defends this key square, so I don't have any sort of a check from my opponent. So I'm feeling generally pretty okay about this. Right now, I am up 1, pawn of material, I suppose, if you want to call it that. But really, I have 1, 2, 3 pieces, and he only has 2 pieces. And so since he's not far enough advanced, I should be able to convert that, I would hope. I've proven myself wrong many, many times. So I'm developing. I'm threatening this pawn here. Okay, cool. Probably should have seen that one coming. I really don't want to help him fix his pawns. I could move my king further forward. That seems kind of weird. But then I'd be able to bring my knight here and here to threaten that. I could move my bishop here, threatening this pawn. That would be interesting. Let's let's try that. And then same idea. I need to get my pieces into the game here. Go here. I'm redoing the analysis post game because of an annoying beeping in the background. Didn't want you guys to hear that. I move my rook over, have a check. The king moves forward, and not only does the king move forward, now I help my opponent undouble his pawns. In a couple more moves, I'm trying to get my pieces a little bit further forward. This is an overcommitment. That B pawn, you can see that. That's really, I really lose a large part of my advantage. I'm trying to, advance, but it's creating those weaknesses. I move my knight over, and with the bishop here, I make another mistake. I capture that bishop, and my opponent, you can see these central pawns. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pawns against my one knight. Move back over, and you can see here in a couple moves, I try to set up here. I'm on this weak square. My opponent has this weak square on c5. I've got my pawn defending my knight. My knight is defending my pawn. And so I'm thinking, okay, cool. I could set up some sort of a little, fortress here. I have this. I move back. There's not quite a redundant check. And now I move this other pawn forward. I'm attacking the rook, and I've got both these pawns defended by the knight. The rook defending the knight here. I'm trying to set something up, but it's just a little bit too precarious. I move my king forward. My king is much, much further advanced. That's an advantage, but it does have some risks involved with it. Right here, my opponent could move over here, and this move right here would be checkmate, so I have to be a little bit careful. I decide to be a little cautious, play this move here. My opponent moves forward. I have to move my knight, and I can feel this game just slipping away from me. You can see I lost my outside pass pawn. That was one of my larger advantages, and my opponent hasn't lost any of his central pawns. I'm setting up a different defense where this is defending here, this is defending here. We can see that, maybe this isn't the best idea, but I get a little bit of hope. I'm able to recapture this F pawn, and after I, for some reason, waste a move moving forward here on F5, I'm able to recapture this G pawn. But you can see, based on the clock, we are both under 1 minute. There's very, very little time left on the clock. And my opponent here, this E3 pawn is super, super scary. So I have to go and try to capture it. And right here, I completely throw the game because this is check, gives up the rook, and that's it. It's going to give up the rook while promoting to a queen. After it promotes to a queen, I will take this. It's just over. But fortunately, my opponent does not see it. I move over here. My opponent moves down. I try to push up. My only win is if I can get this to become a queen. Otherwise, a rook and knight against all of this, yeah, good luck. Even a rook and a knight against a rook is difficult. And so over here, I blockade this pawn. If I could blockade this pawn, I'm doing good. Check here, and now I have an opportunity to here, take this rook, game over. I don't see it. I move over. I have less than 30 seconds. My opponent has less than 30 seconds. He moves forward, and I happily grab this, hoping for this. Obviously, then here, grabs this rook. That would be game over. My opponent sees that, moves over, and goes back, goes forward, and right here, the game ends with me winning on time, which is exciting. However, if this game would have continued forward, I do have a huge advantage right here. It would just be very, very difficult to figure out in such low amounts of time pressure. I think that, honestly, the best idea here would be sacrificing this knight for this pawn, perhaps, and then running my king all the way over here, promoting this, because this king is just too far away from the action. Luckily, it didn't come to any of that, and I was able to secure the win and stop playing the Grob. That was my third win. Clearly, this opening is not for the faint-hearted. I only recommend moving forward if you are, a little bit crazy. For those who made it all the way here to this point in the video, I thank you a lot. I'm going to do announcements at the end of my videos moving forward, and this announcement's important. I'm not going to release videos every single Friday like I have been doing. These videos take a little bit more time, a little bit more nuance. I have to research the games. I have to do my notation. I have to script it. I put a lot of work into these. And so it takes me a little bit longer than a week. Plus, I've got a full-time job. I have a family. So I really appreciate that patience. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing. I'll see you back around here very, very soon. Have a great one.